Let's go over the top 7 discs that you need for 2023. Now first up, we have the Buzz. I know it's not necessarily a hot take to say you need a Buzz in 2023, but I still think it is underestimated how valuable a good straight flying mid-range is going to be in your bag. And there's so many narrow shots that you will need to be throwing a straight narrow disc that you cannot do with any other disc than a consistent straight flying mid-range. And a Buzz is probably the best in the slot. I haven't seen anything else that's quite as good. I've used a Prodigy M4 that has a very good feel to it, but it still is not as consistent as Buzz's. They certainly have a little bit differences in stability from run to run, but overall it flies great, it feels great in your hands, and hey, if you're Drew Gibson, you can get 450 with this, so make sure it's in your bag. Next up, once again, not really a shock here, but you need to have a Grace. Now, I know these are hard to get, I know they're hard to come by, obviously that's why I have a rainbow dyed disc. It was the only one in stock, but you need to have a good disc that will work in mid conditions that will get you maximum distance. I know a lot of people don't necessarily like to flip up their drivers, but I think a Grace is a great use case for when you need to throw straight, you need to throw a turnover. It is just a great all-around disc for distance shots. And I think once you start to feel it in your hands, you'll get a better grasp for how good and how unique this disc truly is. It is not just another distance driver. Next up, it's actually a disc that I don't have in my bag, but I have loved when I have thrown it. A MVP Tesla 10-speed driver. There's something about the feel to it that is just so comforting, and when you have that release, it just feels like it's going to go the exact line that you want. I also have found that this disc is great for a little bit of Anheuser to get maximum distance. I know that you might not think of 10 speeds as great distance drivers, but in my experience, they've worked out great and they feel great in the hand. I think this is great for when you have short-ish holes that are 300 feet that you just need to get to circle one, but not necessarily go much further. You can still get the accuracy of a slower speed disc. It works out great, and I think it's a great disc in its slot. And next up, a disc that you probably don't think about all that often, but if you have thrown Infinite, I'm sure you've been throwing these, a Pharaoh. This is a 13-speed driver that flies a little bit more like a 10-11 speed. I find it very similar to my Grace, but it has a little bit more flippiness to it and a little bit more grippiness that makes it a very good distance driver, and it'll actually hold a line pretty well. But there are instances where if you throw it in a little bit too much power, it will turn over a bit much, but assuming that you can get a pretty flat release, it will carry that line very, very far. And I found that these actually have very unique flights to them. They will hold their line a lot longer than what you would expect for a flippy distance driver. I personally have only been throwing the swirly S-Blend, so that's all I can recommend, but I do recommend it strongly. Next up, you know we gotta do it, a Berg. Now I know I said previously in my In the Bag video that I have a love-hate relationship with the Berg. I think it's a very unique disc that will give you certain shot shapes that you can't get with anything else. I think the ability to throw a very controllable upshot that's 100 to 150 feet is awesome to have, and it's something that people don't necessarily think about when they're playing disc golf. So having this will give you a lot more control when you have windy conditions or anything where you don't feel necessarily comfortable with your lines for 100 to 150 feet upshots. This will definitely help that and improve your game. Now I know you can't guess what this is, but it is actually a Valkyrie. I think it is one of the best distance drivers that I've ever had starting out. I don't know if it actually is going to be great for more advanced players, but for me starting out and growing towards an intermediate player, I have found that Valkyries are great for learning how to throw distance shots without having something too overstable, and it will really help you to learn your lines. And with that, I think the evolution of these would be a Wraith. I don't have a Wraith to show off because I actually have lost mine, but I think the Valkyrie and the Wraith are great shots when you need to throw a distance shot, but not necessarily crank it out as much as you can. Just get a line that is straight and consistent, and it will get you a great line for when you are not quite advanced enough to throw a destroyer or a more higher speed disc that's a lot more overstable. It will allow you to learn to throw that line, and it will give you a lot more confidence when you are trying to throw distance shots. And just a little honorable consideration, I think the katanas are actually great for starting out. I used it as my go-to driver, and I think it was actually a great slot for when you don't have distance, you don't know how to throw distance shots, but you're learning how to. It is much more of a flippy disc and a flippy driver than what I'm used to now, but starting out I did not know how to throw a disc. But like most beginners, I could only throw hyzer, and so this was a great disc to hold a line and flip up just a little bit and still get pretty good distance. So if you haven't thrown these, I recommend checking them out. This is a champ. I actually recommend a star katana, but either are great and they'll get you a good flip up distance shot if you are a beginner. And lastly, I don't actually have a specific disc to recommend, but I will just say it is important to have a lightweight putter. Here I have an XT Whale. I really like it. I actually got it because I watched some of Ricky's putts. I was just like, how is he doing this? And I looked over footage and like checked it out. I just saw that the disc name was a whale, but it is actually very good for throwing 60 to 80 foot drum putts. A lot of people don't necessarily practice this shot all that much, but if you do start feeling comfortable with it, it will be money in tournaments when you need to throw certain crazy throw-ins that you don't necessarily think you can do. Having the lightweightness to it really gives you amount of confidence to throw it close to the basket. But the only caveat is if it is windy, you probably want to throw something else, because this will definitely do a flight that you don't expect because it is so light. So there you have it. Those are my top 7 discs for the 2023 season. I know they're not necessarily hot takes. I don't really have anything that's like too crazy, but I think that's important. A lot of people are trying to grab onto the very newest thing, but I think these discs that are a little bit more well-known have a lot of importance to them. They will have a consistent run. They'll have a very nice flight to them. You'll not have to discover anything new when you're on the field throwing it. So I think make sure you know the discs that you're throwing and you feel confident about them day after day. Let me know what disc you guys are leaning towards in 2023. Also, make sure to subscribe. I'm going to be doing a 1,000 sub video where I spend 24 hours on a disc golf course. You do not want to miss that. So with that, Wild Run signing out. Peace.